All right, so I'm gonna demo how to do the test strip today. So we're gonna go through all the different methods of attaching strips of sheet metal together. So I've got the sample here, I've got instructions for the kids up here. Super simple instructions, and then more detailed with pictures as well. So a heads up on that. All right, here we go. Keep this handy so I can remember what order I'm doing stuff in. All right, so the first thing they have to do is use the squaring shear. I show them how to move the back gauge. So they will loosen these, and usually they team up to do this, and they'll move it. There's measurements on here. So we move it to 2 inches. And it's the big line I have to tell them, not the number itself. The big line right after the number. So we get that set up. I have scraps set up for this because it's, you know, just a practice piece. So I have scraps set up so they can kind of use whatever. So I'll just, use this. So we've got it set up to 2 inches. So I'm going to throw this in here. If I butt it up against the side, then it should be square. Step on it. And then I'm going to make 2-inch strips in theory. They'll be weird shapes, but that's okay. Alright, random scrap piece I probably won't need. That one's not going to be good for a lot, but it might be good for something. So they're going for 2-inch pieces, and they need 7 of those. So you can do a couple of things I tell the kids. You can work on creating a strip like this, but then you can just slide it in and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have a leftover piece. Sometimes we end up with pieces that are a little funky like this, like that they can't shove it in there without smushing their fingers, or something like this. So then what I have them do, 1, 2, 3, 5. I don't remember how many I counted, I think 5. 5 is they can, and I'll show you over here, use a ruler. And either a marker or an awl. To make another piece. So they can measure out something like this. They can take something like this and cut it off. Glued. My husband have a job for himself to lube them. You can also just trace it. So you could use the awl, you could use the marker. It truly doesn't matter. So we've got an extra piece here. And I tell the kids when they're doing other stuff that wherever they want it to stop, the aviator snips, that's where they need to have the end of their, the tip of their snip, so that they don't overcut. Otherwise they tend to overcut. So you can do here, you can do here, until we get 7 pieces. And there we go. They also learned how to, when they were doing the boxes, when I explained this, how to cut with the aviator snips. Goodness. They also learned how to use the file and get rid of sharp edges. So they could do this if they needed to, because it's got a little wonky spot. So give it a little bit of a whack, take the file, put it somewhere pretty flat, and get rid of those funky edges just so that you don't cut yourself. But this one doesn't typically need a lot of this. Mostly worry about it in the box. So I've got 7 pieces. So the next thing they would do, and I'm just going to do this to a couple of pieces, is they're going to stamp their initials. So hammer, and I have them do it in all of them. That way kids don't steal each other's stuff. So a J and a dub. So they do that in all their pieces so that people don't steal it. Some teachers have them use marker. That's not really how I roll. So that they would do to all these pieces, and then we move on to assembling everything. So that is steps 1. Well, they're not even 1. It's pre-steps. And then we're going to move on to the double hem, spot weld, rivets, grooved seam, and such. So here we go. So we use the bar folder. I showed them on here that the measurement is here. It's 1 inch. This is 1/2, and they need 1/4 inch. So they need to make sure this is lined up, because people move this, because when we get to the end of this, we're gonna have to put it on like more of like 1/8 or a little bit more. So I just make sure that they check that before they start doing this. Then I tell them to make sure it's in here flat, make sure it doesn't just hit the edge right here, but it actually goes into the machine and it's not crooked, because otherwise they end up with a funky seam or hem. Grab it, hold it, pull it, slide it off. This is an open hem, okay? Then they can smash it either this way or this way, it really doesn't matter. Smash it, so then that's a single hem, which they learned how to do on their box. Slide it back in, same way. Again, open, smoosh it, and we have a double hem. So we talk about that it's stronger, looks nicer, those sorts of things. So we're gonna head over to spot weld. My hubby's gonna help me for a minute. So this is our spot welder. It's not working appropriately. So flip down. I explained to them that typically when they push on this, this is going to weld these 2 pieces together, but something in between here and the switch is not working correctly, so I'm going to have my husband flip the switch back and forth for me. But I'm going to grab a glove. Whatever hand it is that they're going to hold with is obviously the one they want to hold with. Or grab a glove for rather. It's a little crusty, but overlap it, maybe 1/4 inch. Throw it in here. Start to push down. Don't flip it yet, otherwise we're going to burn a hole. Oh, I do talk to them about this. So if it's not all the way to the ground, oh, you also have to sort of hold it down so it doesn't tip because it's not attached. All right. So flip the switch. I didn't tell you to turn it off. Off. Okay. So that's the weld. I did forget this. What? That's warm. I don't know if the water cooling. Alright, so hold on. Now I do show them that if they don't push it down all the way, or they get scared because it sparks and then they lift up too early, that you get stuff like that and it burns or they freak out. Yeah. And I say take a breath, you know. Hold on. Go ahead. Okay. should be good to go. Again, those are hot, so, you know, this is warm to the touch. So I think I'm gonna keep my glove for now. Figure out where I laid down my other pieces.
Over here.
They're still here. Okay. Alrighty. The next thing that we're gonna do is grab a pair of vice grips. Hopefully some that don't suck. And we're gonna do our rivets, I believe is what's next. Spot weld rivets. Alright, so we're going to stick it here, give it a little bit of overlap, use an awl, and a hammer. Give it a little tap. It's like magnetic. Give it another tap. And we should be good to go. I'm going to use my, and it did sort of do both, but the top one is the one that matters. I explained to them because otherwise the bit can walk. We don't want it to walk. So I'm going to use these vice grips, show them how to use them obviously. And then another little wonky thing we're doing here. This is the bit that we use for the pop rivets, but it's a smidgen bit smaller than the one we would actually need to use for the rivets I'm going to use today. It's just because we have them using the different rivets, but we don't keep changing the bit out and forgetting which one's in, and people use the one and the wrong one and blah, blah, blah. So we're going to do a little wiggle. So I show them, turn it on. I show them don't use this handle because then you end up pushing and that's weird, to grab the one from up top and then you can kind of pull. So another teacher came in and adjusted it for a job he was doing. And now I think I have to grab the back one. Oh, that's annoying. All right, well then, here we go. I tried to adjust it back, but then I hit the thing on the wall, so I'm not sure how we got it down so far, but. All right. So it was way up higher than this. So I told them, look for the little divot you made. And then just kind of, for me, it's like arm pressure. I mean, you're not actually squeezing, you're pushing, you're actually just doing some arm pressure. And then I have them do a little bit of a wiggle like this, because like I said, I need it a little bit bigger. And that should probably be sufficient. Now, the rivets we use are over here. This is why we're using them, because I have a bajillion of them. So I'm going to use these. So I have them test it, make sure that it's going to fit before they take off the vice grips and do the other side. It fits, so we should be good to go. So pop off the vice grips. I'm going to smush them a little bit more because it was a little bit like it wanted to slip. Put it back, give her a little pinch. There we go. Same thing, grabbing the back one. Just kind of the weight of my arm again until it pops through. Make sure we're good. Stick it back in. Give it a little bit of wiggle. Make it a little bit bigger. Don't ever walk away while it's on. Make sure it's good to go, and it is. So, I'm going to come and grab a hammer and come back over to the stake. Anything metal will work really, but the stake's kind of nice good for here. So, the trick for this is to shove this in here. Shove it in there, flip it over, and then to get this thing to mushroom without just bending over, so I'm going to use the ball peen side first and tap slowly to begin with. And you can kind of see that, I think. Can you see that? Zoom in. Good. Alright, and then once it starts to mushroom, then you can whack it with the other end until it does what it needs to do. Ooh, and then don't do it too much or you're gonna make it not where you can put your other side in. Alright, same thing with the other side. Put it in. Oh, I should have put a belt in first. Oh, there we go. I got it. Not your thumb. Again, it starts to mushroom, so then you can flip it over and give it some good wax. Now, we used to have, and my amazing husband found me one at home, but it doesn't fit. This lovely little gadget that is supposed to do those rivets, but these come in various sizes, and this was too big for what we use, so it didn't work out. All right, so we've done double hem, spot weld, rivets. Now we're gonna go to the grooved seam. So what I show the kids, I have this sample stuff in here that I use. So, we'll see. I think, so the grooved seam is like here, okay? So what it is two hems, right? A hem and a hem that then interlock together. So I have this piece that sits over here so that I can explain it to them when they're confused. I think it's been whacked before. Somebody's played with it. But these slide together. So all it is two open hems that just slide together, and then you smoosh them. Okay, and then we will end up soldering them. So, which I did not turn on, so I should do that. So there's that. We're gonna do that real quick from the end of this and one of these. I think I'm gonna bring this stuff over there with me. Because I think we'll just maybe be able to finish it over there. All right. So again, 2/4 inch hems. When I put this in, make sure it's straight, flip it over. Needs to be open. Okay, it doesn't have to be that open, so if they want to smoosh it a little bit, they can, but don't smoosh it a lot. Grab another piece. Open hem on it. Again, it's a little open, so I'm going to smush it just a little so it's a little bit flatter. And they can slide together a little bit better. So they slide. Whoop, slide really easy, like this. You can give them a little tap with the hammer first, or just come over to the vise. I found it terribly amusing how many students don't know what a vise is. That's crazy to me. So I'm going to do half. That way I can hold it together. I'm going to flip it over and do the other half. And it holds together pretty good. All right. All right. The one that throws kids off is the cap strip. Oh, yeah, turn that on. Yeah, turn it on. All right. So this one throws kids off a lot. It's the cap strip joint. So, again, I had a piece over there to show you, but that's okay. You have those two open hems that come together like this, and then you do another piece that folds over it like this. So, another 1/4 inch hem, right on the end, make sure it's nice and straight. Yes. Sorry, think about the last one. Okay, there's that. I'm going to do it again on another piece. And there's that. So I have these two pieces that fit like this. Okay? Now we need a piece that's 1 1/8. So I'm gonna trim this guy down to 1 1/8. So I have to, I go over measuring, but I make them show me before they mark it where 1 1/8 is. So they're gonna mark it. I make them mark it in 2 places so it's not wrong. Draw it out. And then trim it. These poopy aviator strips. Cut. Cut. And then you're gonna 1/4 inch this guy as well, because this is the thing that's gonna slide over top of this. Okay, so I'm gonna 1/4 inch one side. Then I'm gonna 1/4 inch the same, or the opposite side, the same direction. If you go down too far, you'll smash the side you did. So don't go down too far. And you kind of end up with this. Now what I typically tell them to do so it slides on easier is to take that side that's not quite down and just, nothing major, but enough of a little tap. Okay? Then this piece should slide right over there. Kids find that part very satisfying. And then come back over to the vise. Sometimes I have them give a little tap. Depends how loose it is. This one's a little loose. So since it's a little bit loose, I'm gonna hold it tight. Give it a little bit of a tap before I put it in the vise. I'm not sure why this one's looser, but. It's not going to wiggle quite as much. Again, throw her in the vise, smush her down, flip it over, smush her down, and you have a cap strip. So, where people screw that up is that it's a little loose. I don't like that gap right there, but I did notice, I'm not sure how I did it in there funky, but, or maybe I cut it funny. It was a little bit crooked, but that's okay because that will get soldered in. But where they end up really struggling is when they make it a little bit too small. They didn't get their 1 1/8. They went a little bit short. So it might have been better to not use the marker and to use the awl. Is going to be a little bit more precise. So we have went through double hem, spot weld, rivet, grooved seam, cap strip, and now we're just standing seam. Okay, standing seam. Don't know why this one throws the kids off, but it does. So I have them put it in the vise every which direction, and let me look. I'm pretty darn specific in my opinion in my directions about how to put it in the vise. But yeah, they hammer it flat and everything else. It's called a standing seam, but they still hammer it flat. I don't understand. All right, so you're gonna put this in here. You can either give this one the 90 degree or you can give the other one the 90 degree. It doesn't matter. So I think I'm just gonna go all the way over on this guy. So it's a hem, just like we keep doing, right? Then we need a 90. So I'm going to pull it up about like this. And then these two pieces go together. Right? Come back to the bench vise. And I've had kids put this in there every which direction. My suggestion is to put it in so that you can push push it the other way. Oh, you know what? My standing is gonna be on the bottom. That was stupid. Usually I think I do the other way around. Usually I think I do my 90 here and my other thing here. So, should we troubleshoot? Let's troubleshoot. If the kids are like, oh, then I tell them to grab a screwdriver and whack that out of there. I don't feel like walking over to get one. So I'm gonna pry on it. And make that my 90. Oh, fine, fine. Pliers it is. I need them anyway. Alright, so I want this one my 90. That way it bends the right way. So I'm going to flatten this guy out and rehab him so he's not ugly. We don't want him ugly. Read my own darn directions, right? Alright. I like to screw up in front of the kids, honestly. It shows them that it's okay. Alright, 90 degrees. Standing. Yeah, standing. This one needs to go the rest of the way. So, the rest of the way. Alright. Now it's standing the right way. Alright. So, grab that while I was there. They fit together like this. And then this, where they fit together is what goes in here because you gotta pinch it, right? So kids screw this up by letting this fall down too far. So I tend to hold it while I pivot it around. Make sure it stays centered. Like that, like that. You have a friend help you. Give it a squeeze. And then push. Okay, it's going to make it stand. You're going to give it a nice flat, so it runs flat. So I've got kids that are like, you made it go flat. So they hammer this part flat, and I'm like, well, then you just end up with a grooved seam again. So I don't understand, but that's a standing seam. Okay, so you smush it, and then we'll end up soldering these three joints that just fold, that aren't welded or riveted. So the last one. This is the one that the kids fly through this and then they cuss like sailors. Here we go. Make an adjustment on here. So what we use for our wire, because this is our wire, a wired edge, what we use is just the piece that pops off the pop rivet. Not quite big enough, but using our resources. So for this one though, we don't want, it's gonna cause me issues because that's crooked. We don't want it to be a quarter because a quarter is too big to wrap around this. So I told the kids somewhere between an 1/8 and a quarter. So I tell them if they put it at like between Mark II and Mark III on here, that should be about right. So we're gonna see if I'm right. Okay, we're gonna give this a hem. It's only gonna go so far because of the standing seam. Okay? And you place that guy in there and you kind of look at it to see if it looks like it's gonna curl over like this. Okay? I tell them the easiest way to get it started so it doesn't continue to fall out is to bring it back to the vise, one of the two. I guess on this one I kind of like the small one. And I have them put it in here at an angle where they're touching the edge first, because otherwise it's just going to shoot it right back out. And then you're gonna kind of watch it, and then it starts to shoot it out. But it starts to curve it just a little bit more. Oops, too much. It's kind of it's a dance you're gonna do now with, is what I tell them. The dance you're gonna do with the metal and the wire. All right. once I've got it sort of in there, then it's a matter of using the pliers right at the edge and twisting while they turn. All right? So without shooting it out of there. Get down in there, mister. Grab it and turn it. Grab it and turn it. Grab it, turn it, until it starts to make this coil business around the wire. So again, grabbing and turning it, and it's just kind of this dance, but they struggle and they fold and unfold and cut this thing off and make a new one, and they struggle with this. But that is the general gist. It's not beautiful, but it's pretty and blue of the wired edge. Okay? Then you can see how it sort of is still kind of wiggly. So, I mean, you could whack the bejesus out of it with the hammer, which is what some of the kids just like to do, or we solder next. So I'm going to take it down here. I did turn this on. Not too shabby. I'm going to put a little water on this, so I'm going to keep using this. That is going to kind of clean off the sooty kind of stuff that's on there. Looks like somebody got a little crazy up here with the solder. But I explained to them that we could still use these pieces, so I'm fine with it. We talk about flux and how it's not going to stick if you don't get the flux down into the grooves. So if you want it to come down inside of there, then you need to make sure that the flux goes down in there. It's not about gunking it on there, because it just steams back off anyways, kind of. I bagged it. But you want to get it down there and there as good as you can. And if you want it on the side, you need to make sure it goes on the side. Let's see what it does with my lovely marker. Whoever decided to color the whole thing, it was not one of my students, I'm gonna tell you. I show them that I have little pieces cut, so if you want to lay a little piece in here, especially something like that where it's going to eat it up really fast, just go ahead and lay that in there. And then it's a matter of warming it up and letting it settle. It should settle kind of nice and smooth like that. Again, I like to use the bits and pieces that the kids, for whatever reason, won't use the pieces that rolled off of theirs. I just kind of get them onto my thing and layer down in there. I show them that this one and this one will suck up a lot. So, I mean, use it off the table if you want. That's what I tell them. And get it to smooth down in there. I'm not going to bore you with all three of these, and I don't bore them with them either, as long as they get the general gist of how to do it. So the goal is to have it smooth, not have it chunky, and not have gaps where you can see through. So that's the general idea of solder. So, all right, the plan after that is done. The plan after that is that I release them to do their own. I remind them that there are these super simple directions. There's the very detailed directions that I went through and took pictures as I did them to help them. They tend to work in kind of pods because they get done with things together anyways, so they can bounce ideas off of each other if they're stuck. And if all else fails, I'm running around in circles helping kids do a bunch of different things so they can come and ask me. So that's how it goes. It's definitely plenty for a 50-minute class.